Thank you. So thanks everyone for being here. And I think I'm going to introduce you, Stefano, or maybe you want to do it yourself, but I checked your biography and I figured maybe it would be nice to read a part of it, because you've won so many awards throughout the years. If I would read out the whole list, it's going to fill up the 40 minutes.
Make it shorter.
I made it a bit shorter. So Stefano de Luigi, born in 1964, we wouldn't be able to tell, is or has been a professional photographer since 1988. He lives in Paris. And you started in Paris working in 89 to 96, working for the Louvre, I think. Yeah. But I want to hear about that later, actually, because I'm curious what you were doing there. But I'm not allowed to ask because it's not part of the 4 questions. So someone else in the Q&A, please ask this question. In 2006, he embarked on the project Cinema Mundi, a world cinema exploration on the alternative cinematographic scene far away from Hollywood, including countries as China, Russia, Iran, Argentina, Nigeria, South Korea, and India. You did a whole world tour there. And he has won 4 World Press Awards in different years. And in 2017, he published his 3rd book, I the Sea, and in 2018, his last book, Babel. And he's a member of 7 Photo since 2008. So thanks, Stefano, for being here. That's quite an impressive list.
Thanks, Ilvy. Thanks for inviting me.
So, you know the concept. I'm allowed to ask you 4 questions. We might do 5 or 6, but anyone else who wants to ask a question, feel free to put one in the Q&A box below. And the first question is, what is your most important image that you took so far in your career?
Yeah, well, it's a rough question indeed. I was listening the last interview you had with Maggie, and I agree. I mean, it's very difficult when you asked me to participate to this meeting. I said, okay, yes, 4 question is not so difficult. But then when I discovered the nature of the question, and I start to remind and I have to decide which was the most important picture I had. And I had a lot of very important pictures that make a real change on my career. But so decide the very one, it's very difficult. It was very difficult. But in the end, I think I'm honest to, and maybe I'm going to show you the picture. I will share the screen. Okay, I'm honest to show this picture because I think that was really the most important picture of my entire career. Let me give you some context about this picture. It was 1995, so it was already 12 years that I was a photographer. And but I was struggling a lot about what I want to do in my future. I was jumping on an assignment to another one for the press magazine, mainly in France, because I was living in France at the time. And I was honestly very frustrated because I could feel that I didn't go forward in terms of aesthetic, in terms of construction of a story and narrative. It were just a normal feature that we know very well, of 2 or 3 days covering maybe election in a foreign country, or a short documentary feature in France or in Italy. And then arrived the point that I wanted to have a break of all this practice, and I went back in Italy for a while, for more than the classic 1 week or 2 weeks work. I tried to make some space for an idea that I had, and the idea was explain how a character as the former Prime Minister Berlusconi could have been elected in Italy. At that time, 1994, was a shock in Italy and in Europe that a tycoon from TV could have been elected to the most important, to the top place of politics in Italy. And I decided to trying to explain to foreign publics, especially France, but in general, how that was possible in photographing all the television industry in Italy. So the idea was a long travel in the universe of all the programs of private and public television. And this moment for me was really a key moment because, as I told you, I wanted to make space for something different in the narrative, trying to build a real project with photography and develop my own language, my own style. And when I took this picture and then I developed, because it's obviously negative, black and white, and I saw this picture maybe 1 week later than I took it, I understood two things. One, that I did well to take time and make space for something else that I was not used to do. And secondly, most important, I understood that I could have a voice with photography, because in this picture, I was able to condensate all the elements that explain the reason of what I'm saying, Berlusconi took the power, the reason of what we were watching on TV in Italy at the time, and the mix of entertainments and politics. That was a sort of revelation for me. And of course, after 1995, I did a lot of mistakes, but I was sure at that moment that I could be able to run a project. And since then, I did maybe 5 or 6 projects in my life. So that's honestly was a revelation, like a reborn, something like that.
At the time when you started this project, were you kind of working in the same way that you are now? Like, did you make a project plan, or was it an idea in your mind and you just started shooting it?
No, at all. I told you, I just left for Italy with some ideas, but was very, it was not clear at all. I needed to find something else, that's for sure. So I left saying, okay, before 1 month, you don't go back. And of course, I knew that I wanted to work on television, but I didn't know at all what I was going to do in terms of construction of a narrative, in terms of building and shaping a project. So it was really something that described me that was possible to do something like that, and I was able to do that. That most important.
Yeah.
Able to see in a different way, not running after the information or the news, but maybe giving a vision a little bit more elaborate, with different degrees of reading in the same picture. And since then, I'm trying to develop this concept inside the picture. But that was the real moment. And I remember very well when I developed this picture and I said, my God, this is something very different from everything you have done so far. So you are able to do that. And I was very, very happy at the moment, but I didn't really realize how much important was this moment.
But now looking back, you realize it.
Now I realize very well. That was really a big changement. But of course, like normally happens, you don't realize on the real moment. You realize just after. That was the moment of changement.
Yeah, that it was a turning point.
Very
at that time.
Yeah.
And where was it published, and who exactly is in this picture?
It was published. I'm not saying everywhere, but it was published in US. It was published in Europe, and I was in Europe, in France, in Germany, and of course in Italy. So I was also, and all this comfort myself in the idea that I have seen right. I mean,
Yes.
that was readable and understandable, and also magazine and newspaper, even new clients could see the synthesis of different information inside this picture. Because as you see, this is a sort of parody of a press conference in the White House,
Yes.
right? The woman, which is a starlet of TV, was parodying at that time, I think there was President Bill Clinton, something like that, and was really a parody of a press conference in the garden of White House with all the micros in front of her. And I cut this picture just to make a resume of what was the entertainment at the time in Italy, that was based on, obviously, a lot about sex appeal or sex messages, and a sort of information that which was filtered by the control of a political party. That's was everything was inside the picture, and the magazine started to use that as a symbol of the Berlusconi era in Italy. So
and it was part, as I understand, of a wider series, right? So you had other pictures exactly describing the same kind of feeling, which became quite relevant again recently when Trump became president a few years ago.
The curious part was that of course, I keep on working on this subject in Italy, this matter in Italy, till 2000. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I remember that when I was in the World Press Photo Masterclass, which has a name, Job Swart, maybe you'd say
Masterclass, yeah.
Yes. One of the masters see the picture about Italian television and advised me to open. And I remember he said, "Go global."
Yeah.
And give us a reflection about this media around the world. Of course, pick up some important countries for the production of this media, like US, like Mexico, for instance, for all the telenovelas, soap operas, but go global. And so also that, opened me other door about how you set a long-term project in many different countries, but with the same issue. And I was not the first to do that, of course, because Salgado did that before everybody else. But I understand that I had in my hands something very important to carry on along the years and set up a real project. So again, I think that was a key moment.
Yeah,
and a very important picture for me.
I see there are 2 questions coming in the Q&A. You are probably seeing them too.
Let me stop the sharing the screen. If I am. Can you read me the? Yeah, can you?
Yeah, I'll read it to you. From Arki, it's Stefano. Your images are so unique. Oh, now you can see them as well.
Yeah.
How does one go about finding their own voice or unique style in visual storytelling? That's quite a difficult. I'm happy you have to answer this one because it's very broad.
Yeah, it's very
good luck.
Well, I try to answer in a very positive way. I think to find your own voice, first of all, you have to find yourself. I mean, you have to know yourself, and you will see, Arik, we will talk about my big failure, and you will understand better what I mean about that. But I know that for me, for instance, for many years, I dreamt to become a war photographer because I was really prisoner of many cliches. That for me, photography was, when I started, was covering war, but was more of running after a cliche and especially do not consider my own nature. And my own nature is not the nature of a war photographer, right? So I understand that my voice could be a one voice when I start to understand myself. So you need a lot of humility. You need to be humble, and maybe reframe a little bit some ideas about yourself. But then you will find for sure something that you are interested. I mean, the focus of your interest, and from this point you can start to build your own voice and your own narrative, because it's going to be true. That's very important.
That's a beautiful way of answering this question. And then a question from Sarah, our lovely colleague, 7 colleague Sarah. So Stefano, this photo is so interesting because I think it can be read in so many ways. The context you are bringing to it now as you discuss the thinking behind it. The context you are bringing, yeah. And then also the way it might be considered today in the context of #MeToo. Lots of ways to see it actually, but I'm curious how you see the image today.
Sarah knows that, but I like when the issue that I'm working on is risky, because can be, I mean, all my story, if you consider that I work on issues like pornography, for instance, or telling the Odyssey with 2 iPhone, it's always a challenge, right? It can be a technical challenge, but it's mainly an intellectual challenge. Working on blind people as a photographer is a very big intellectual challenge, right? And I think it's a part of my nature to be provocative, just to make a stimulus of my work toward the people who watch my picture. Mm-hmm. So considering the cancel culture, or I mean, I know what is happening today in the world, and I'm a little bit scared about our freedom of thinking. But I know as well that I'm not going stepping back. I mean, I'm ready to explain. I'm ready to consider all critics and takes the discussion. But I think also my work speaks for myself, and I would take the same picture today. In other words.
Thanks for answering. And great question, Sarah. So I think we're going to the difficult question, or at least I would think this is a difficult question, but maybe you thought it was easier. What is your biggest photo failure?
Yeah, no, there are many failures in my...
That's the thing. That's, if I would have to answer this question, I would be like, oh, yeah, I have a few on my list.
You know, yeah, I was very shared into a big failure, and then I thought that that was the ones that I'm going to show you. It's more a professional failure. Then the other one, I was very young. I was in the beginning, so it's not. I think this one is more important. Okay. Share the screen again. Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
Curious to know what the story is. I like the image.
Yeah, this picture has been taken in Nabatea, south of Lebanon, in 1997. So 2 years after the other picture that I showed you before. And in the picture, you can see two members of the clerics of Shia community. And we are in one of the most important towns of the south of Lebanon, controlled by the movement Hezbollah, which is a political and for some states terrorist movement, which control the south part of Lebanon, which is Shia. So it's the minority of the Muslim world, but very important in Lebanon. And at that time, in 1997, I wanted to make, because I was still thinking that I was a war reporter somehow. So I
that stayed with you for a while, I'm guessing.
yeah. But yeah, stayed till 1999. Then I decided, and I understood that was really not my life. But
Okay.
this one was the big failure because I was working already for an agency. I set up all my contacts, which were resumed to one contact, and that was the first part of the big mistake.
Yeah.
And the big failure. And was a military attaché in Lebanon embassy in Rome. So with him, I had a very good contact. Obviously, I wanted to do all the aspects. I want to tell all the story about Hezbollah. But of course, the most important part of this work should have been the training camp, because Hezbollah were giving a military answer to Israel, a military threat, represented a military threat to Israel. And that was also, in a journalistic way, the most important part, because it was very, very difficult to show military training of Hezbollah. So I thought that I had the very good contact, and I left for Lebanon for couple of weeks again. I remember very well, because it's ridiculous now, but and now I laugh about that. But on the time was like living in a movie, because they allowed me to do, of course, the most easy part, such as clinics, such as schools, even TV and radio, because they had a very important media department. But I was always asking for this training camp, and they always say, yes, don't worry, you will do that, you will run that, but you have to be ready, because it's very complicated. So we have to carry you maybe in in the back of the car, when you can.
Oh wow.
Something like that. But
more secretive, yeah.
And you can imagine, I was so excited. I mean, like in a movie,
Yeah. I wonder where this all is going. Okay.
The first week once I did a lot of shoot, but I started to be a little bit worried, because the answer was always the same. And I realized on that time that I had only one contact. That was this person that was a guarantee for me that I was not an Israel spy, or that. But he was in Rome. He was not in Beirut. I was based in Beirut.
Mm-hmm.
So after 1 week, I called the embassy in Rome, and I asked to the guy, well, I'm very happy so far, because I'm doing a lot of stuff, but still the training camp are not coming. And he said, don't worry, they will come. They are testing you. And I said, yeah, okay, but my ticket expires in 1 week, so I would like to spend at least 1 or 2 days in this training camp, because yeah, don't worry, okay. And then again, another clinics, another hospital, another rally. I went one day on the border with Israel, and that was the highlights of my trip, where from 10 kilometers I could see the Israeli army position on the border. And in the end, you can understand, I mean, because it's a failure, because I never saw an inch of a training camp.
No.
I never saw, and
What a disappointment. They just kind of kept telling it's going to happen, and it never did.
So I discovered two things in this. I mean, I get two lessons. First lesson was never go only with one contact. I mean, you have to always have a plan B, because if the contact that promise you paradise, everything, on the moment that you need reveal itself to be not I mean, not what we was saying. I mean, all the promises were just like wind. You are naked, like I was in Lebanon, because I really didn't have any other clue to. And secondly, try to understand why a thing has not been done before. I mean, of course, it's very difficult, but so you have to double your effort to be sure that if you promise to because my problem was that I promised to the agency, and there were 2 magazines that were waiting for this.
Oh, that's extra painful. People were really waiting for these images.
Exactly. And I come back in Rome with my, I don't know, there is an expression in Italians that say, with my tail into my legs, means really something. I was
between your legs,
be destroyed professionally. And I remember that I tried, of course, to make some positive stuff from a negative experience, but that is the, and anytime I'm too high, I go back to see my Lebanon story to say, okay, calm down, because you come from there, you went through this, and this is always waiting for you around the corner if you don't pay attention.
And this specific image, was this published in the end? Because I mean, the camp didn't.
Probably has been published. 1 or 2 pictures were published in Daly's newspaper, but I mean, I had space for 10 pages on magazines. You know, it's
so
different.
Is it still painful for you then to look at this image? Like, do you always think, oh?
No, it's not painful, but I tell you, just when I'm a little bit too, not superficial, but I'm too sure of something, I always remind this story. So I go back to double check if everything, I'm quite a perfectionist indeed. So, but I am always afraid that something go wrong because I didn't work enough to set up a good contacts or double check the how you said the when somebody is trustable, is feasible, it's you know available, something that is true and is concrete, and you can really trust that you have the best fixer, for instance, or so yeah. I think this big failure is important because it was a great lesson for me. And probably if I did this fucking training camp, sorry for the expression, but probably I didn't get this big lesson. And I think it's necessary sometimes in your career to have a big failure to make you thinking. And even if you are going very well, you still have to be very professional and very attentive of all the different aspects of your work, and not to give for granted anything any time.
Yeah, I think it's also a good lesson for anyone who's listening now and who sometimes works on long-term stories or wants to work on stories like this, that it's super important to keep, to all the things that you just said, to keep your mind open to this, because it's quite easy for stories to fall apart like this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, it was because I didn't have a plan B. I trust too much a person. I was very naive, right?
That's also good advice, to always have a plan B. But I guess here there wasn't much plan B to be made because this is what you wanted, right?
Yeah, but because I was, I was completely running after this dream to be the first to bring back a beautiful and exclusive a reportage from Lebanon about Hezbollah, and I didn't pay enough attention to the person. I mean, a military attaché normally is a spy, so he's used to play with people without any kind of problem for his.
And there you were, right there for this person.
Exactly.
So that brings us to the third question. Maybe the answer is a camp like this, but I guess not. What is your dream story? If you could work on any story, it doesn't even have to be realistic.
Yeah.
But what would it be?
You know, it's a story that has been done, indeed.
Oh.
Yeah, it has been done by William Klein, and it's about a documentary on Muhammad Ali.
Ah, yes.
And honestly, if I had to pick up a story that I would have loved to do myself, is that one.
Yes.
Because
why?
Oh, because I think it's one of the personality most important of the 20th century. And I don't know. I mean, because I really love the guy, and I really had so much respect for him, for his life, for his choices. And so I had the opportunity to spend a few months, because he shoot reportage and picture, but he also did a documentary on him. So he spent quite a lot of time with him.
Yeah,
it would have been the most surely for me the most important human adventure that I could ever await from this work.
Yes,
but
yes.
He did. William Klein is not the last one, so it's beautiful. But yeah, I don't have other dreams, like I don't know, even now, you know, they are shooting a documentary on space station, International Space Station. So no, I think this one is really my dreamed work that I would never done. But
yes, that can be made now. But I understand why. It would have been beautiful. I would have loved to see it from you, actually.
Yeah,
let's turn back time.
Me too.
And the last question, but people please feel free to ask anything in the Q&A. Oh, I see there's a lot of things in the chat, actually, but maybe it's just love for you. I'm guessing so. Oh, Maggie says, great question from Sarah. And then Sarah says, thanks for the honest answers. Well, you have a lot of honest answers in this last 35 minutes. Thanks for that. So the last question is, and I've asked Sarah this in her webinar and Maggie in hers as well. And I loved the answers to this question. So I really hope, you have some wisdom on this as well to share with us. But it is, what would be your advice to your younger self, if you could give any advice now?
To myself?
No pressure from Ilvy, says Sarah. I knew it when you were going to say that. But the answers were so lovely. I'm sure you can do the same. You're a wise colleague.
Yeah, thank you.
I feel, yeah, you are.
When I was young, probably I was too much focused on I mean, it's not by chance that it took me so much time to understand my nature, because I think I was really obsessed by I come close to this work because I wanted to it was a way to realize myself, to escape from my family environment as well, and to very soon to say, okay, I'm this thing. But I think when I was young, it was too much. I put too much emphasis. Okay, is it English?
Yeah, it's English.
On to be acknowledged and recognized by the other.
Yeah.
Instead of understand the real reason why I wanted to do that. And I think, honestly, the advice would have been think less to the other and think more about what really you are and what really you are following in your life. I was obsessed a little bit about the others, and I waste a lot of energy, of course.
Do you mean by the others, by the recognition that you could be getting from your work? So it was very important you would work on the biggest stories like war photography just to get that recognition. Is that what you
Yeah,
Anything
yeah.
else?
I mean, I'm not. I'm saying. I mean, to be ambition is it's okay for me because it's a very difficult work. We know it's very individualistic sometimes, but this competition and this acknowledgement from for my work has obsessed me so much that has made me blind for quite a long time to understand the real reason why I wanted to do that and why what I wanted to say, especially. So it was an handicap.
Yeah.
Which, today, I really would advise to the younger myself just to don't think about the acknowledgement on the other, but just focus on the reason why you choose this kind of life, because it's a way of life indeed.
And how do you focus on yourself? I mean, how do you do this? Just as an advice to people listening, how did you switch your focus from being kind of outward, making things for recognition instead of turning inward? How did you learn about yourself, basically?
Which is very important indeed, because I think was Maggie saying that in the end the personal project has been a sources of recognition and satisfaction, personal satisfaction, very important. So the answer is that again, you don't do the things for the others, but you do the things for yourself. So you really have to understand the needs that move you, drive you, right? And every kind of external interest or judgment, or it could be really toxic for the research of the truth sometimes. So what I do is I ask myself plenty of questions, and if I found a real answer, an honest answer, I think I'm on the right way. Then I'm also sure, because I put a lot of love on what I do, that maybe some of the people outside will like what I do. But I don't think, and I don't think also it's normal that everybody has to like your work. You have to like your work first.
Yeah.
You have to be happy about what you do. That is the most important thing. And then let it go like a baby in the life, you know, and you will see if like kids, there will be people that will be successful and other less, but at least you are very happy about all your children, and you are in love with all your children, and that is the most important.
That's a beautiful way of saying this. It's a
That's
lovely way of explaining. Yeah, and it's true. Sarah says that she said, Ilvy, sadly, I think this only comes with age, this knowledge.
Yeah, well, it's a game here, because obviously I can't advise my younger self, but yeah, that's for sure. You understand things with the time and with the experience, as we have discussed so far.
Yeah.
Success and also big failure teach you a lot.
Very true. Let me see in the chat before I move to the Q&A, because there's also a question coming in the Q&A. Maggie says, I agree completely. Very wise advice. Don't worry about the others. Concentrate on your own work, your reason for doing it. Don't worry if people see the importance of it. Send it out into the world and see what happens. Yeah, it's beautiful. And Jessica Hines says, yes, it does seem to only come with age, and still it's helpful for younger people to also hear this. I totally agree.
Exactly. I mean,
I really needed this advice as well. That's why I asked a sixth question, even though I wasn't allowed. So thanks for all this advice. So there's a question in the Q&A from Sayan Hazra, and you know Sayan, of course.
Yeah,
from
we all know Sayan.
We all know Sayan, that's very true. And the question is it the body of work? Is the body of work important to you? How does it function in relation to making a great individual photograph? And what comes first to you, the idea or the individual photograph?
I would say the idea. The idea is the motor that push you to make the research, and then the photograph hopefully will come. But first of all, is the idea that move you to make a project.
And the other question, if it's the body of work important to you, and how does it function in relation to making an individual photograph? It's a difficult question. But you have to answer it.
I guess that the question is if it's more important the body of work or the single picture. I guess I do only body of work, I would say, because obviously I work less and I focus more on projects. So all my projects are body of works that develop itself on the length of maybe 2 years or 1 year, so 3 years, it depends. But the nice picture are part of this body of work. My attention is about the body of work, the project, if it's complete, if it's strong enough, if it's solid. So the nice picture is just one piece of the whole, and it has to be like that.
Yeah, I agree. Maggie, I'm so happy because I wrote it on my little list here, Louvre, but she also comes back to it. Could you just revisit for a moment your experience with the Louvre? Have you been a curator or a photo editor? No. I think you were photographing for them, right? And she says, what are the other photo-related things that you have done besides taking photographs yourself? So let's start with the Louvre.
The Louvre is a nice story because it's also the reason why I choose France for live. I'm Italian.
We know.
Yeah, you know, but I grew up in Italy, and I will be always Italian. But there are things of my country that I can't stand, and I discovered that we can live also abroad and discover that things works differently in another country. So I was 23 when I went to knock the door of the Louvre Museum, which is one of the most important museum in the world. And I asked the authorization to make a reportage, because there were at that time, there were some important work of restoration of the museum. So it was a world news. They grant me the authorization, so I worked for 1 week. And because these people, when I say they are the responsible of the photo department of Louvre, which take all the documents of everything happens in the Louvre. So I went back to see them, and because they have been very kind to me, very gentle people, and I show what I've done. And in the end, when the projection was finished, they asked me if I wanted to work for them in doing 2 or 3 reportage a month about the backstage of Louvre. Louvre is like a little town with a lot of stuff happening all the time in the backstage that you never imagine. And I worked for them for a couple of years. I never been so rich in my life like in that time, because it was extremely well paid. And in an afternoon, I was very poor, and then I was very rich with a beautiful job, and I was nobody. I mean, and I thought, going out from the Louvre, I thought if it was the same situation in Vatican Museum in Rome, would have happened the same thing? And I knew the answer. That's why I think here is still a very meritocratic country that gives opportunity to young people that start with a lot of enthusiasm to do job that's love. And I was really nobody, and still I remember that. I'm really grateful to this country, because it showed me that you don't need to make politics, just do very well your job, and maybe some opportunity will come to you as well.
And those images, they are part of their own
they are part of the archive.
archive.
Yeah.
But it's not, we can't view these, right? I mean, not on their website, or this is just in their archives.
Yeah, it is in the archive. The rights of this picture are mine as well.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and I have in my archive, but well, we are talking about picture that I took maybe 28, 27 years ago, and some of them are nice. I use them for some lessons, for instance, to talk about my own my personal career.
Mm-hmm.
But well, they are very nice memory, but they are a picture of that time.
Yes, yeah. Not that current anymore in your career.
No,
that kind of brings us to Maggie's second question,
which
is she asked, what other photo-related things have you done besides taking photographs? And
like what?
you now mentioned teaching. And you're really good at it. I've seen you at workshops. You're a great teacher and lecturer, and looking at portfolios of all the students. And but are there any other things that?
Well, all my life is around photography. So for a long time, I just shoot picture. Then I start to teach. Then I start to study as well, photography. Recently, I spent 3 months in the beginning of the year when the things were not sure at all if COVID would allow us to. So I prepare a cycle of conferences on the relation between photography and some artistic discipline like painting or cinema or literature as well. So I go back to study a lot, and I discovered that photography. I discovered first of all that I am really ignorant.
Why?
No, because there are so many relations.
Yes.
And but one thing I just to say to you I'm very happy to have the chance to go back to study, because we do not realize sometimes, because we are taking in the life of photographer, I know very well, and to stop sometimes and study what we do. I mean, the media that we used and the potentiality that and the relation in the history that photography has developed with many other disciplines. It's a great opportunity, first of all, to understand better our job, and also to develop other projects in more wide sense. So I do that, and I think it's enough. I don't know.
I think there's one more. The films, documentary films. Sarah mentioned it now, but we also mentioned it in the introduction.
Yeah, because the photography brings also to develop a relation with other discipline very close. And 3 years ago, I had the opportunity to shoot a documentary, but was really on the side of my reportage. In the end, like sometimes happen, it becomes more important, the documentary, than the reportage. But I did also reportage, and I participate to design and set up books of photography. Like 1 week ago, I was in Italy to print another book. So yeah, wow. But everything turned around photography anyway.
So when is this book happening?
The book is coming out. It's coming out. It's arriving here in Paris around half of November, and it's the first self-published book.
Tell a little bit more about the book. We have a few minutes. Can you?
Okay. Well,
if you like.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone buy the book.
Tell
us about it.
In fact, I've been asked to exhibit a work that I've done 20 years ago. It's a work about pornography. It's a long travel on the most important country of this industry that produce 100% of the pornography in the world. So I choose for the continents, I choose the most important countries, such as Japan for Asia, US for America, and Czech Republic, Hungary, and Germany for Europe. The idea was also scratched on the, on this wall that pornography is like a black hole. Everybody knows, but nobody wants to see what there is behind. Behind it's, what I discovered, it's very far from what you can imagine, and not in positive, right? But I wanted to also use this representation of sexuality as a lens to discover a culture. So the results are very different from Japan and US in the way how they represent their sexuality, which is very interesting as well. So I've been asked to make an exhibition next year, and I thought, well, I did a book 20 years ago, my first book. It was about this issue. And this book, I was very young, and I was like a pot of, a very fragile pot among a very strong pot of iron, because there was the editor that was a big chief, and also the publisher was very, and I didn't have the voice to strong enough to say, no, this is what I wanted to show, right? And I decided to go back to my archive of 2.5 years and reset completely the selection and make for the first time something very intimate that represents myself in this trip, like Alice in the Wonderland. And I redesigned the book with a team of people, and I think it's I'm very happy about that.
Amazing to be able to do this, actually, to go back in time and to kind of not redo it, but to make it.
It's a totally different book with a totally different spirits as well, and it's my first because of course I had to do myself. It's the first time that I self-published something. So that is the story behind the book.
Beautiful. What will be the title? The same as the first one?
Pornoland Redux or Redux.
Beautiful. That's lovely. Beautiful. Everyone buy the book, like I said. And I see Maggie's also saying buy the book. There's one last question. Oh, let me see. There's also one. Okay, we're almost going to round up. We have to, because the time is, we're running out. See, we did make a full hour, Stefano. Maggie says, I love the Louvre story. I have several stories like this. And if you are enthusiastic and smart and not cocky, in capitals, lots of things can happen. These are some of the best photographic stories. Stefano is a great teacher and a wonderful photographer. Very generous, reflective, humble, and always fascinating. And it's so true. Really true, Stefano. You're amazing.
To you, to Maggie, to Sarah, because it's true that you are a great support.
Applauding here. So before we round up, there's one last question. It will officially be the last one, and it's from Sayan. And I think it's a nice question to round this up as well. How do you see the future of photography in a digital age? Very broad, but I wonder what your perspective is.
Yeah.
If you've done your story on, was it IDC? Which one was shot on iPhone only? IDC.
IDC.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the name has it in it.
I'm not afraid about photography. I think photography is going to live for the next 200 years. Or I'm afraid a little bit about the ability of the young generation to read a photograph, because a photograph is what it is a point of view of a person filtered by her or his experience in the world. And I'm very happy that there are more and more people that are able to produce picture, and photography had this develop horizontal. It's not anymore a pyramid like the producer and the people that watch. So nowadays, everybody do and take pictures. What I'm afraid a little bit, it's about alphabetization of photography. Photography is a very sophisticated art and can express a lot of stuff, and has been very important for the history of the 20th century. But I'm afraid that all this is going to be lost by a very superficial reading of photography. That is my concern. It's the only one. Let's remain optimist and say, okay, there will be a part, even little and teeny part of people which practice photography that will understand and will be able to read a photography in the right sense, in the right way.
Totally.
Stay young, stay optimistic.
Yeah.
Because you are young.
Stay optimistic. I agree. I think this was an optimistic answer in a way. Yeah, stay optimistic. Stefano, thanks so much for all your answers and your time.
Pleasant pleasure, always, like always. I wish you all the best for this meeting, because I think it's very important as a discussion, and all the issue that comes out are very, very interesting.
Thank you. Thanks so much for being part of it. And the next one is, let me think, it's with Anush Babajanjan on the, I think it's the 22nd of November. So please, everyone who is here now, please check it out and participate. Yeah. Thanks for all the questions in the Q&A and all the love in the chat. There was a lot of go Stefano, go Ilvy. So thanks for that as well. Thanks everyone for being here, and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.